Well, if you've watched Sales Untraining or listened to the podcast at all, you know that I am big on role play. And when I talk to people about it, they're always in the same boat. Yes, we believe in role play. You know what the problem is? They don't have any plan to implement role play at all. Well, in this week's Sales Untraining podcast, a number of my key insights to getting started with role play. This is Sales Untraining, a very different kind of sales podcast. 3 out of 4 salespeople are failing. They're falling short of their revenue. Why doesn't sales training work? That's what this sales podcast is about. It's your weekly sales strategy guide designed to rewire your sales brain. We want to get better. If we want to change the problem that sales training doesn't work, you've got to learn to role play. If you're not role playing with, I just lost a bunch of people. I can hear it. They're like, I've been down this road. My people hate role play. So explain to me why that matters. Everybody hates role play. Nobody likes to be put on the spot to see exactly how good you are in front of an audience. Nobody. Why do you think live performance is so difficult for everyone? Why is it that public speaking is the most hated profession in the world? Nobody likes to be judged, assessed, analyzed in front of peers. You got to get over it. And if you're going to work for our company, this is the way we do it. We get good on the practice field before we go play game, right? That's the way it works. Salespeople who can do good live role plays. And I'm not talking about gotcha role plays. And I'm not talking about somebody who's a jerk just to show you that one client they had one time that was a jerk. I'm talking about valuable role plays, real world scenarios, giving people an opportunity to see what it's like to be on the playing field before they ever get there. Because if you can't go through the sales process, the presentation process, the discovery process in front of your peers, why should I expect that you can do it with a customer? Listen, I've been doing this a while, 4 decades. I know what salespeople say. Oh, hey, I would never do that in front of a customer. Yes, you would, because you just did. Don't tell me you wouldn't do it. I have sat in on thousands upon thousands of sales calls over the years. I've seen it all, but that's not true. It's amazing the new things that will come up, but they are variations on a theme. Not prepared, don't know the product, don't know the customer, don't know the situation, the scenario, haven't asked good questions, don't have good information, and they're all variations on a theme. All the great sales leaders that I know, and I'm going to include myself in there because I train salespeople and sales leaders for a living, so hope I know what I'm doing. But having been an effective sales leader, I realize that live fire practice, call it role play, just many people don't like the term, but let's just call it that because we know what it means. Being able to practice in specific scenarios under stress is what makes people better. It's what makes them better in anything, whether it's firefighting or military units or sports teams or what. You practice under duress and you practice to get better. You don't just practice, you practice well. You practice at improving specific skills. And doing that makes you better, and it makes you better faster. And by the way, once you get over the initial, feelings of being judged by your peers and your boss, and you get over it and you realize, hey, this is what it takes to get better, and getting good live feedback is exceptional in that process. You start to adapt to it and you go, you know what, this is not nearly as bad as I thought, and I've really gotten a lot better. And watching a half a dozen other people who are far better at it than me has made me way better as well. So I learned a long time ago, you want to get better, you practice. Salespeople don't like it. Kelly, you don't understand. I just don't like it. They put together these goofy scenarios and they try to make it hard and, they're trying to embarrass you. Well, clearly, look, it's not the role play, it's the way it's done. I mean, you can take any topic and do it poorly and decide that it doesn't work well. Now, let me give you an example. My favorite, role play. Just present the product to me as though I'm a prospect. Now, in a real live sales scenario, we want to ask good questions. We want to engage. We want to work off of the things that they tell us. We want to pivot if necessary. All of those things are necessary in practice as well, so we can get used to dealing with uncertainty and complexity and all those things. But let's just make it easy. I want you to present a product to me as though I am a customer, and I'm actually going to be a real customer, one that I've interacted with, and I'm going to use his thought process and his questions as you present the product. And here we go. You start presenting the product, and I ask some questions, and you get a little tongue-tied, and you don't know where to go. So we pause, and we go, okay, let's stop. Let's break it down. Let's get better. Right? Simple. I'm Kelly Riggs, host of the Sales Untraining podcast. A couple of quick questions for you. Do you hire salespeople? Is sales turnover far too high in your organization? Do you struggle to find A players for your sales team? Well, these are very common questions, and there is a better way to hire. I'm a partner with Objective Management Group, OMG, and they have been assessing sales candidates for over 30 years. In fact, they've assessed over 2.5 million salespeople. Now, this is a very different type of assessment. First thing out of your mind is it another behavioral assessment? Is it a psychometric tool? Is it a personality quiz? No, nothing like that. It is based on 21 very specific sales competencies. And you need to listen to this. This is crazy. It is 91% predictive of sales performance. That's right, 91% predictive. You can't even make a claim like that without the science behind it. Listen, if you struggle to find the right people, or if you just need a lot more help in the hiring process and making sure you're getting in front of the right people to hire, please email me, kelly@bizlockerroom.com. Oh, by the way, and you can absolutely try it for free, and it has a guarantee. kelly@bizlockerroom.com. Back to the show. The most important selling skill by far is the ability to ask really good questions. Now, you got to be really careful with this one, because what happens is this gets turned into, listen, you need to ask questions. And it gets turned into a list of questions that become nothing more than an interrogation. Mr. Prospect, how long have you been using this particular solution? Did you buy the extended warranty? Who's your prime vendor? Are you under contract? How often do you do preventative maintenance? And on and on and on. And it's just rapid fire, machine gun interrogations. Listen, if you doubt me, do some role play with your people. Tell them to simulate a call that they already have done a little bit of research, maybe in a first call, and they know that they need a particular type of solution. Give them some parameters, some things that they need to know, and then say, listen, what I want you to do is show me what a real sales call would look like if you showed up and began to talk to this customer about their current issue and challenges and how you might solve it. And just sit back, grab a bag of popcorn, and enjoy the entertainment. It's not good. Salespeople hate white space. Oh, they hate silence. This is one of the big challenges that comes into the sales training role play scenario. It is, if you want to point this out, participate in a role play scenario and teach them to ask questions. And when they ask a question, pause. Lean back and think a little bit. And watch how long it takes for them to dive in and fill that space. Oh, I don't know what it is, but white space, silence, just absolutely trips up salespeople, the average ones at least. The pros, the people that routinely crush their numbers, create disproportionate results, yes, they love white space. You know why? Because they know that the prospect is thinking and considering and looking at options in their mind, and they're completely comfortable with that. They have no problem waiting for the customer to come back, to get intellectually re-engaged, to come back and start to share some of the information that they've been thinking about in that brief moment of time. Instead, what average salespeople do is fill up that white space, that blank space, that silence, with just more of the same. just more talking. Why not? Right? Changing people's behavior is very, very difficult. Let me tell you what I see consistently when it comes to trying to develop new skills. Because most companies don't role play, they don't practice. The individual salesperson goes into the field, tries to implement a particular skill or a particular approach or a methodology, and they struggle, they stumble a little bit. It doesn't go quite well. They don't respond the way I was anticipating, and then we go right back to what we used to do. Come out of that call discouraged. We come out of that call thinking, I don't know if this is for me. I don't know if I can make this work. This is just, there's too much. And my boss is on me to sell. And that call didn't go well. Might have cost myself an opportunity. See the problem? Coaching is critical. And we'll do several episodes on sales coaching and the issues that exist there. But this is one of them. If you want to change behavior, it's a lot of work. Now, if it's a small change, if it's an incremental change, if it's consistently practiced and implemented, and we can see the results positively, then it goes fairly well and fairly quickly. But consider the approach and the perception I would have as a salesperson. I'm at an annual sales meeting. We've got a closing person come in, and they're going to teach us closing skills and techniques and ideas that go into being able to win more deals. And I take notes. I've got all kinds of notes, and I review them and I highlight them and all that. I don't have a sales coach going out into the field with me, sales leader who's supposed to coach. We don't do any practice. We don't do any role play. I'm trying to implement it the best I can. I've got some decent notes, but the forgetting curve kicks in and I miss some of the nuance. And I decide in the next meeting, I've got a solution presentation coming up. And I jump in and I use a technique or I use a skill. I use something that I've learned, and it kind of falls flat. It kind of doesn't go the way I think it should. And I'm a little bit maybe embarrassed or discouraged or whatever. What do you think the odds are I'm going to implement that skill over the course of a long term, right? It's going to be a problem. Your salespeople are practicing on your prospects, on your customers. They're practicing there, because if you're not working with them, if you're not role play practicing, if you're not taking them through actual practice calls, you have no idea what they're doing. And let me assure you, they're never going to say, wow, I kind of stink at this, right? I'm not that good on the prospecting side. I don't know how to open a call. Boy, when they ask some questions, I get flustered. You're going to get none of that. You're going to get a lot of red roses, sunshine. It's all good. Things are going well. Look at my CRM report. I've got $1 billion ready. Yes, of course you do. That's why you're 80% of plan. How do you coach if you don't know what needs to be coached? Let me tell you what happens typically. Someone's 80% of plan, I'm going to make an assumption I know what's going on. Well, they're not asking for the order, so they need to work on closing, or they're not handling objections well, or maybe the margins are compressing and we're not selling value. Hey, you need to sell value. That's not coaching. Telling someone what they need to do or what to do is not coaching. And if you're not out there live watching them do it, they are not going to admit what they're doing wrong. I mean, why would they? I mean, we're all human beings. We don't want to say, hey, yeah, I kind of stink at this. It's not going to work that way. And so the one thing that I consistently see sales leaders do is they're spending way too much time behind a computer monitor at a desk and not nearly enough time involved with them actually making calls that matter. So what should you be doing? Even if you're on the floor looking at some calls, hearing some calls, reviewing some recordings, what should you be doing? Well, one of the things you need to be talking about is what happens before the call. When I would work in the field with a salesperson, we'd pull in the parking lot and they'd get ready to get out. Stop, pause. Why are we here? I mean, at first they'd look at me like, I'm sorry, excuse me, what? Why are we here? Well, Kelly, we're going in to see Joe and, we're going to sell something. That's your objective, to sell something. Well, I mean, eventually, okay, so what's the objective of this call? Every call is different. A brand new prospecting call, a discovery call, a follow-up call, a presentation call, all kinds of different types of calls. I want to know what the objective is. In 1984, I worked for a guy that came out and worked with me on a regular basis when I knew zero. I did not know anything about selling. I mean, I was an open book. And that's where I learned this. He would get me, to the door and he'd go, okay, stop. What's our primary objective? And after a while, I finally figured out what he was asking for. And then he would go, okay, what's your secondary objective? Say what? Secondary objective? And he'd walk me through that. And then he had the, what happens if it all goes to crap objective? I'm like, okay, I'll bite. What does that mean? Have you ever been on a call where the guy you're supposed to meet, the prospect, the customer, the individual you're meeting with, can't make it, doesn't show up, for some reason is detained? Listen, it costs a lot of money to make a sales call. What are you going to do then? He forced me to think through the process of being prepared. Now that's coaching. Can you imagine a coach being asked about practice and the coach just begins to make excuses and talk about, we don't do practice, we don't have time, we're too important, it embarrasses players. And yet you hear that all the time in the world of selling. Part of the problem is that sometimes when people hear the word role play, they react to it the way they react to it because having been exposed to it at some level, some genius decided to make this role play embarrassing in some way. And they made it too hard. I'm never going to let you get to a certain point. I'm not going to let you close a deal, et cetera, et cetera. That's not the objective. The objective is real world practice, dealing with, the fairly average customer prospect that you run across and you get some average questions and you get some, different comments along the way. We're not trying to make it difficult. We're not trying to be hard to get along with. I've seen some role plays that, you just want to slap people around for doing what they're doing because it negates the whole concept of what we're trying to accomplish in practice, which is repetitions, learning some things that we need to do consistently well, getting completely comfortable with the product and our applications and the industry and our language and so many other things so that we can focus on a real dialogue, a real conversation with the customer. You know what the reality is? Most salespeople go into some sort of sales call or presentation, and all they're doing is thinking about what they're going to say next because they're still in the conscious part of their brain trying to recall what it is that they should do next or what part of the solution they should talk about next or how they should present it. They often miss the most obvious questions and buying cues and other things that are incredibly important. The whole objective is to become so good and so comfortable with what you do and what you sell and your knowledge of the industry and the solution and how it impacts their business, all of those things, so that you can focus on dialogue. Well, to do that, I've got to get completely comfortable with those things. Hence, practice. You have to rewire your sales brain. It is going to take a change in how you approach what you do, how you invest your time as a leader to get the most return. You can get out there with sheer willpower and throw enough against the wall that you get some incremental movement. You get some increases in sales, but you're not getting what you deserve because the structure is the problem. Working harder is not the problem. How you work and what you do and how you approach your craft and becoming a sales professional, that's the problem. And it's only going to happen if sales leaders address the systemic problems get their people to practice. Hey, thanks for joining me on Sales Untraining. Like and subscribe to the podcast, and I'll look forward to seeing you on the next episode.
Sales Untraining is a production of Business Locker Room and Pod About It Productions. Music and editing by Doug Branson. To get more Kelly, visit bizlockerroom.com.